This is not the video I expected to come back with. Even if it is good to come in with a short and sweet one, please let this be a shorter video. I'm still working on Harley Quinn, I promise, but consarn it if I didn't sit down in a theater for only the second time in over a year for Cruella, expecting at best an ironically enjoyable goof, and came out instead having really genuinely enjoyed myself for almost the whole runtime. I make this short, spoiler-free video mainly to gush and let people know that they shouldn't write this one off. Take it from someone who's been writing these recent live-action Disney movies off for years and has never once regretted it. I don't even love The Jungle Book like everyone does, but this is good. But okay, how do you square that fact with a movie that's so ludicrously difficult to engage with just on premise? A sympathetic origin story for the character who's iconically a complete monster and attempted puppy killer. The answer, despite what memes would have you believe, is not as simple as having her experience some childhood Dalmatian trauma, though that scene does exist and in execution is probably the wrong immersion-breaking brand of silliness. Thankfully, most of the movie is the fun kind of silly that's self-aware without being self-conscious. It's really refreshing to have one of these Disney remakes that doesn't feel like it's trying to CinemaSins-proof itself in the plotting or dialogue. It feels like it's made by people secure that they've got a winner on their hands. More than that, it feels like it was made by people who wanted to make it, or at the very least, people who were able to twist a real lemon of a premise into the movie they wanted to make. Frankly, I find it fascinating the degree to which this movie skirts that line, deviating so hard from any version of the source material that the few remaining details actually make the final piece feel more idiosyncratic and unique. Like, there's an easily conceivable version of this movie where dogs aren't still an overwhelming and integral presence, so the fact that they are feels quirky, almost personal, even though in reality it is absolutely just a case of making sure that this Cruella has at least one of 3 superficial traits in common with the other versions. The big make-or-break conceit of the film is that it's a story about Cruella de Vil in name only. Unlike what I think we all collectively assumed, Cruella isn't a villain origin story at all. It's not a movie set out to explain or justify the character as she exists in any other media, instead being basically just an exercise in sneaking what otherwise could have been a wholly original story through the studio system by nesting it in a familiar IP. You know, like Joe. The story in question involves Emma Stone as Estella, an eccentric orphan and member of a triad of roguish pickpockets who'd much rather be making a name for herself in the fashion world. By happenstance, a fashion mogul known as the Baroness takes notice of her talent and takes her on in a Devil Wears Prada capacity, until some dark personal secrets come to light, which leads Estella to develop the Cruella de Vil persona as a way to start an escalating feud with the Baroness for the public's attention. Now, that's leaving out a lot of details. With its complex but not convoluted plot, this movie justifies its hefty runtime in a way most of its peers don't, even if what really carries it are the direction and the performances. Stone plays unhinged really well and makes Cruella human while giving her a naturally outsized personality. Whether or not Estella has any kind of genuine personality disorder is a question the movie skates around blithely, and if anything is gonna bother people who otherwise like or even love the movie from a story perspective, I feel like it'll be that. From a non-story perspective, it'll probably be the ludicrous volume of needle drops, which is definitely my biggest complaint about the movie with a bullet. The song choices aren't bad at all, but the movie could generously stand to lose about half of them. Aside from that, my complaints are all relatively minor. There's some child acting that's pretty rough, very occasionally the editing will suddenly become really amateurish, and the climax reads kinda stilted and forced. But Stone's performance is complemented well by Emma Thompson's Baroness, as well as Paul Walter Hauser and Joel Fry as Horace and Jasper. Everyone gives a performance fitting of this heightened reality between cartoonish and empathetic. Stone and Fry in particular have a great unexpected chemistry. Plot-wise, when Cruella's feud with the Baroness takes off, the various fashion-centered heists, capers, and pranks are all quite entertaining. No spoilers, the bit with the cocoons is a hoot. A great compliment to pay any movie is when it manages to invest me in things I otherwise do not care about for the duration of its run. And I know it's hard to believe given how often I make myself look snazzy, but I'm not a fashion guy. But the fashion in this movie is rad. Bro, the costuming in this film is top-notch. Honestly, it makes me kinda angry. Anyway, I think you get the idea. More Disney live-action movies like Cruella, please. Small issues aside, it's a really fun, surprisingly well-crafted and engaging movie. If you just look at the name it's attached to as an excuse to get it made and separate it from the expectations of faithfulness to any 101 Dalmatians mythos, I think most people will have a good time with it. But how do you feel about the prospect of seeing the movie? If you have seen it, where do you land on it? Let me know in the comments, drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the future.